Dr. Reed is like Nate Dogg. You know it's a hit when he spit.
Is smoke your name or smoking what you do?
It's not the same old anymore. It's something fresh and something new.
People in general, they hate rich kids.
Let's get unfiltered.
I'm Carl Reed.
I'm Smoke Dixon. Let's get unfiltered.
Smoke, right off the top, one of the biggest things in college football since we started the season has been Billy Napier and the University of Florida. What needs to happen for Coach Napier to save his job?
Well, Carl, that's a loaded question, man. You know better than that. He's a dead man walk. You remember watching the Green Mile when John Coffey was walking down there and all the inmates were sitting there just hitting the thing, screaming, "It's over, it's over, it's over." Dead man walking. That's what's happening. And when you look at it, at the end of the day, when you're going through a fight, you got to have all parties with you. And the first evidence I'm going to do is I'm always going to cut on the tape. And when you cut on the tape, you see a team that lacks effort, that lacks the desire, that lacks the want to go out there and fight for their ball coach in order for that ball coach to save his job. And then when you look up in the stands, the first game of the season, you saw everybody out there wanting to a win over Miami, sitting up there chomping, doing everything. But once times got heavy, things started going wrong. That Cam Ward pressure came out there and started delivering that baby and dropping them dimes off to those receivers. You saw a team and a fan base started quitting on their team. Then when you go to the alums aren't supporting them. They're wanting them out of there, but they just can't raise the money. So at the end of the day, Reed, dead man walking. Job, he just on borrowed time.
Well, it seems like everybody in Gainesville has already moved on from this situation, Smoke. I do think if he can somehow find a way with this tough schedule to win and end up with 8 or 9 wins, which doesn't seem likely, that could help him keep his job. But overall, the locker room is checked out. The fan base is checked out. The alums is checked out. And you know how tough alums can be on a head football coach. And then you got this thing with everybody seems to want DJ Lagway to play, but Graham Mertz is still starting and getting some action. So it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic goes down the stretch. I think one of the things, too, to consider is that you have a coordinator that you hired in Austin Armstrong that's being paid about $1 million, but he's no longer calling the defense. You know, so that also puts a strain on the school financially. But I don't think, Smoke, that Billy Napier alone is the reason for this implosion. Florida has not yet fully committed to NIL. They're not towards the top in spending when it comes to giving guys NIL money. And that's what the game is now, Smoke, whether people like that or not. Ohio State, all money in. Alabama, all money in. The big-time program, Georgia, all money in. Oregon, all money in. The guys that are trying to win national championships are putting their money where their mouth is, and that's how they're getting the players, and that's how you recruit. If you're looking for stage of Steve Spurrier, and if you want to go back to the Urban Meyer level, then you better have about an $18 to $20 million payroll per year for whoever your head football coach is going to be. And Smoke, if you don't do that, you're not talking about playing football at a national championship level.
Well, you're not talking about playing football at a bowl level. They haven't been to the bowl game, see, Reed, since he's been there. And now that you have hope with DJ Lagway, that's showing you now, I'm the only player on offense that's truly an explosive player. I'm the only player on offense that can really be a playmaker for you. But yet, I'm sitting on the sideline. So even though you have some hope, you're taking that hope away from your team by not playing the player on offense that's showing you that they have the ability to at least give you a chance to win a game.
Smoke, how does that happen, though? When you think about the way the roster has been constructed at the University of Florida, what needed to change? How can you be the flagship school in the state, you the University of Florida, and some of the most fertile recruiting ground in the country, and not be able to have those elite athletes?
Well, Reed, you and I both know everything for football typically starts up front. They haven't shown you the ability to get guys on the offensive line to protect the quarterback or create movement in the running game. And then when you look outside, we're in Florida On the perimeter, you know one thing they can do. They can run and they can create explosive plays. I haven't seen an explosive play other than Wilson at Florida this year, and he's on injured reserve right now. So you can't block, you can't protect, you can't run. The guy that's behind you playing quarterback can't extend the ball downfield on a vertical attack. So where does it go? I can tell you where it's going to go. Time to go, Billy. Time's ticking.
Smoke, and I hear that, and I understand all of what you're saying, and you making sense. But to me, it still comes back to NIL, because those top level guys that when you're thinking about Jeremiah Smith, who's at Ohio State, who's a Florida kid, when you're thinking about Ryan Williams, when you're thinking about what Nick Marsh is doing at Michigan State, or what Ryan Wingo is doing at the University of Texas, those guys aren't free, Smoke. You have to pay for that caliber of player to come to your school and play the wide receiver position or play running back or whatever position you need him to do, offensive line. And I'm still going to stand on this. Until the University of Florida gets their collective and their NIL packages together, it'll be a long time before the Gators can compete again, no matter who the coach is. Smoke, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Mack Brown, legendary coach, one of the only coaches still around that has a national championship on his resume. After a very tough loss, double-digit loss to James Madison this past weekend, reports started to surface that he resigned in the locker room after the game. He backed up off of it. What do you think is going on at North Carolina with Mack Brown right now?
Well, Reed, when you look at it, you see a guy that's there that understands that in the last 15 to 20 years, he's been the only coach to truly uphold that winning culture at North Carolina. And he feels that heavy burden on his shoulder, like I have to do it. And he's an old man. He looks tired. He looks beat up. He looks worn out. The game's changed, like you just said. It's now turning into an NIL, not recruiting anymore, pay for play. Every day someone's coming into his office, if it's not a 7-on-7 coach, if it's not a grassroots coach, if it's not a high school coach, it's probably one of his better players that's coming in there trying to negotiate for more money, for more playing time. And he just looks like a tired man. And that JMU machine that just ran that boat race up on him, put that 70 burger on him. Now that probably was the final straw that broke that camel's back. So I can see him going in the locker room, being just dejected and feeling like, whoa, I just let the school down, the players down, because I just don't have the energy of a young man, because college football has turned into a young man's coaching game, a mid-age coaching guy's game right now. And he's just an old, tired man that's trying to figure it out. A la what Nick Saban did, but Nick walked away before the season even started.
You know, Smoke, Mack Brown, one of the legendary coaches, especially at building relationships with what I call the trifecta: the parent, the player, and the high school coach. A legendary guy in building those relationships, also going into the living room on those in-home visits and dealing with the family and get you excited about playing football to him. And he's been able to do that whether he's been at the University of Texas or whether he's been in North Carolina. But Smoke, as you just said, and we've talked about ad nauseum on this show, the game has changed. That relationship just doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore, because money on the wood makes the football good. Players don't want to be talked to death. And every time somebody makes a play, or every time somebody gets on the phone with their high school teammate or a guy they know from another school, and they find out, hey, you getting paid this? Well, I think that I'm better than this guy. And they're going back in those offices over and over and over again. I was talking to a college coach today who's starting quarterback, just threatening him about not playing the rest of the season if they don't get the NIL package to a certain level. That's what guys are doing right now in college football, and it's driving guys like Mack Brown crazy, Smoke. It's got to be a really, really rough thing. Remember, Gundy stepped out a couple weeks ago. We talked about it on the show, and he said, do not have your agents call during the football season. It's time to play football now. And so when you have guys coming at you for money like that, and then you go out there and you get ran out the stadium by a group of 5 football program, Smoke, man, that's got to be a frustrating feeling.
Well, it's more even frustrating when you cut the film on, because most of the time when you have upsets, it's typically week 1 or 2 when you haven't found your groove yet and you're just trying to figure out how to play. But North Carolina got out-coached, out-executed, and JMU's players made better plays and bigger plays and clutch moments than their guys did. So if Mac Brown is looking at it, Mac Brown is saying, I got a punt block. I gave up explosive plays. I'm supposed to have the better players, the better staff, the better recruiting ground, and I'm still coming out here, and this is not even a game at the end of the day because I just gave up a basketball score to JMU.
Well, you know, Group of 5 schools with the transfer portal, Smoke, are also able to close that talent gap. You got some guys who have used the transfer portal to get really good Division II players, to get really good FCS guys, and they're getting some backups from Power 4 programs that are dropping down. They're really improving their rosters, and those guys know when they go to that level, it's not as they're getting a little money, but not the way the big boys. Some of those guys at times can be a little hungrier to play football, Smoke.
Well, Coach, you and I both know when you're in those lower tier conferences, guys typically do a better job of evaluating low tier players. In turn, those low tier guys can get elevated up, and most of them do. And you see that. Guys that weren't highly recruited but took time to go to a JUCO route, a smaller level ball route, and then happily just fall into your hands. So that's what JMU just showed you. You can still do it at a low market value and still get the best out of them if you have them playing for you, playing hard, and playing the game the right way. Tough, hard, and with intensity and effort. And that's what you'll see and come out with a good game plan.
Smoke, they say that everything is bigger in Texas, and we had a big start from sophomore Texas quarterback. Arch Manning gets his first career start at the University of Texas. Smoke, what do you think about Arch's first time out as the starter for the University of Texas football team?
Reed, solid showing, right? Threw 15 for 29, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But I want everybody to go back and watch the film and just take notes on how Steve Sarkisian helped this young man get through the highs and the lows in order for him not to lose how he's going to play the quarterback position moving forward and not to lose himself and understand that I'm not going to lose confidence in the way that I can play. It's easier always to come off the bench and play. But when you're the starter and anointed that guy for the week, you got to go through a game plan, and that defensive coordinator is going to prepare for you, take away your strength, and make sure that your weaknesses is one that they're going to show up more. Make you play left-handed, another way of saying that. But when you saw the game plan, he came out, jitters, missed some easy throws that you know that Arch could make because he's an accurate passer. So what did Steve start doing? Steve started giving him easy free access throws, screens. Then there's a time that he missed the blitz coming off the edge from the field. He didn't see it. It's a young guy. His eyes are all over the place. What did Coach Sarkisian started doing? He started recognizing 3-by-1. They're blitzing that, and it's automatic. So he just started throwing bubbles to that, making sure that wherever you blitzing from, I'm going to throw right back at it and put my quarterback eyes right there where he needed to see. Because I'm coaching his eyes and I'm coaching his confidence. Now, if you keep on bringing pressure from me from the field, I'm just going to slightly roll him outside and make sure that he's now throwing off a platform and giving him a chance now to say, I'm reading high-low. If high-low's not open, I have my wheels and I have my legs. I'm going to take my legs and I'm going to get a couple of yards and just make sure that I'm always going to have tough yards, advantage yards, and I'm always adding a plus. I don't want my young quarterback, and Steve showed you, playing behind the sticks. Great job by Steve Sarkisian of game planning and understanding the ups and downs for this young quarterback and getting him through it.
I'm going to tell you what, Smoke, there's got to be a lot of college coaches right now that are jealous of Steve Sarkisian because he has 2 NFL quarterbacks in his locker room, in Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. And Arch Manning, who's normally the backup, he comes from a family of football royalty that understands and believes in development. So he's getting the opportunity to develop. He's getting the opportunity to come in and wait his turn and take his time, and there's no pressure. He's not getting threatened that Arch is going to go in the transfer portal. He doesn't feel like when Quinn Ewers comes back, he still has to start him. Steve Sarkisian right now, Smoke, has a dream situation, quality start from Arch to get him going. Like you said, he gave him some easy throws. He can continue the development process, and that's what a lot of young guys are missing. They want to play so fast. Guys want to play before they're really ready to play, before they master the playbook, before they master coverages, before they master their technique, which is why you see certain guys getting benched and yo-yoed around in lineups. And he has a situation with a big-time backup quarterback in Arch Manning for now that's family understands that he has to be developed and that it takes time.
Reed, isn't it refreshing that you see a young man understanding that patience is a virtue and that his developmental process in order to truly achieve success? And that he knows even when I go out there and everyone said I'm anointed the great and the next one, there's always some stumbles. And within those stumbles, I can go ahead and just take my lessons, learn, and help build on this game of perfection.
Well, you know, not every kid gets to be around 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Super Bowl winners. Not every kid comes from a family situation that's so financially stable, they don't need him to go out and earn a living for the family. And they picked Steve Sarkisian because you and I both know Sarkisian is one of the top 2 to 3. It's a very short list coaches in the country when it comes to developing the quarterback position. So this is something that is a design from the Manning family. So Sarkisian has the perfect situation here, Smoke. And I think that it's going to pay dividends to players. And I wish more players would go into college saying, I need to be developed and allow the developmental process to happen, and they would be better for it down the road.
Well, Reed, what you're saying is absolute truth. But when you want those things to happen and become successful, you have to have the ability to be humble. Be able to have the understanding of it's going to take time. I have to go in, learn from the older guys in front of me in order to perfect my game.
Smoke, speaking of development at the quarterback position, Jackson Arnold had a rough outing against the University of Tennessee this week, was pulled midway through the game for the backup quarterback. Smoke, you got a couple of plays on film that you highlighted that we talked about in our meeting today. What is your thoughts on the Jackson Arnold situation at Oklahoma?
Well, coaches always talk about reaction and response. I thought that was the reaction after you had a terrible play of throwing the ball out of the end zone. But this is not the first time that Jackson Arnold has played like this. He's been playing like this from game one until he got benched. When you looked at the young man, you see a quarterback that eyes aren't attached to his feet. His mind and his eyes aren't seeing the same thing. Like when you come off of this right now and he's staring down, it's a simple high-low reaction to throw. He's throwing that into triple coverage. On the film, there's a post route that's going straight across the field that's wide open if he just keeps his eyes right down the field and throw that ball right there. Instead, he throws the ball into triple coverage and gets it intercepted. All that's showing me that he's not being told and he's not understanding the process of elimination. He's not understanding high-low concept reads. He's not understanding that my eyes cannot take me all the way through that progression right there because they're playing zone defense and I have 6 eyes on me with the opportunities to make an interception. You didn't see him look off the defender. You didn't see him keep his eyes vertically down the field like most quarterback coaches tell you. He didn't identify the boundary safety and threw it right into triple coverage. This is not a Jackson Arnold issue. This is an offensive issue that they're having at Oklahoma. They're not protecting him well. They're not running the ball like Coach Levy did last year. And the explosive receivers on the outside aren't making the plays for him. So what's happening now is that Jackson is now pressing, trying to play outside of his skill set for a young quarterback. So at the end of the day, he has the most skill set to win the game. Right here again, you see another pass. He's throwing that in a second window that's typically open for him off an RPO. That's a simple pass of letting that first window get closed by that dropper coming right underneath. The second window is right behind him. You throw it to the hairline of the face mask of that receiver. He catches it and runs. That's something that Jackson has done his entire life, but his feet's all over the place. His arms all over the place. You see him hesitate on that throw. Typically, he catches that, reads it, and rips it, Reed, right on that receiver's face mask. And you see that receiver typically running for 6.
And when you look at their play, Smoke, that tear motion occupies that backside backer and opens up their window for him, and he just misses the throw. But I think in a deeper context, when I think about the Jackson Arnold situation, I think that you have to use this as a lesson to young football players. Dylan Gabriel was the starting quarterback at Oklahoma last year, had another great statistical season, and he kind of got pushed out. And all offseason, we heard that Jackson Arnold was the guy, that he was going to be unlike any other Oklahoma quarterback that we've seen before, and that losing Dylan Gabriel wasn't a big deal, and that he was better off leaving because they wanted to play Jackson Arnold. And here, not even halfway through the season, Jackson Arnold is already benched for the next guy. Young ball players need to understand this. I don't care what your ranking is. I don't care how much hype you have around you. I don't care how much NIL money you have, how often your parents call the coach, or what kind of program you came for. You have to produce results when you go on the football field. And if you don't produce results on the football field, you're going to be replaced. With the transfer portal and NIL, we talk a lot now across all platforms about the business of the game. Who's getting paid, who's coming, and who's going. We're not talking enough about guys that are locked in to being great football players, that are studying tape, that are studying their techniques, that are studying their opponents and playing assignment, sound, high-level football, Smoke. And I think that every young player should be watching this as an example that you can lose your job if you go out there and don't play well, because no coach is going to lose his job watching you make mistakes play after play.
Well, Reed, when you have a young quarterback like that, everything that you said, you're dead on and accurate with it. But as a head coach, you can't have this knee-jerk reaction of benching a guy for the backup. You're a head coach. I played the game. Everyone always wants the backup quarterback to go in, or your backup to go in there and play. But if the backup was good enough, the backup would have been the starter from the beginning. So you're losing a quality football player. So you understand the quarterback position is a fragile mind. And you have to have a guy that can work with that fragile mind and unlock that quarterback whenever they get into tough situations or adverse situations that you see right now with Jackson Arnold. The young man just needs somebody to come in, counsel him, get him back down to ground zero, start him up from the ground up, and teach him how to throw the ball again, and teach him how to play the position of quarterback. Because right now, you have a broken player. And most likely, see, Reed, you and I both know, he's headed towards a portal.
Well, Smoke, I'm going to tell you what, when I coached, we ran the wing T. So as long as the quarterback can spin around in a circle and count to three, it didn't matter what kid we put back there. I could have went back there and played quarterback with the running backs that we had running that ultimate wing T. So, Smoke, listen to this. Michigan, big win over USC in the Big Ten. It seems crazy to say that Michigan and USC had a Big Ten conference game. What did you learn about the University of Michigan in this game?
Reed, what we learned is what we saw all last year. You have a tough, resilient, well-coached, cultured team that understands that in adverse times, all we have to do is lean on each other and look into our leaders' eyes and know that our leader's not going to budge. Last year, everyone walked them down and said, oh, you guys were cheating. You guys can't win. You only can run the ball. Your defensive guys are guys that weren't highly rated. What did they do? All they did was sit back, play hard-nosed, tough defense, physical on offense, ran the ball, and physically imposed their will on their opponent and came out with a national championship. So SC rolled in there in the Big Ten country in Ann Arbor on Saturday, and they got what Michigan's known for: physical, discipline, relentless, tenacious football, and they came out with the victory. So what I learned is fight on. They're pretty good, Reed. Leave them alone.
Smoke, culture wins. And I think a lot of times when you look at teams and you're talking about losing Jim Harbaugh and some of the guys that they lost, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you lose the quarterback in the first round. Michigan is a program that at this inflection point, those guys expect to win games, and they play to win. The two big defensive tackles, they play like first-round draft picks, and they have a room of really, really tough guys. When you think about it, Alex Orji threw for what? He was 7-12 for 32 yards. They're running the ball. He's extending plays. When Sam Webb was on our show, he said if Orji could just hit on a couple passes, they will win games like this. But they dominated this game at the line of scrimmage, and that's what kept them in the game. Those guys are so mentally strong right now at the University of Michigan. Sharon Moore has them playing tough ball. They took some criticism when they lost to Texas, but Texas may be from top to bottom the most talented team in the country, if not within the top two. So I think Texas was a bad matchup for them, but Michigan is still going to be a big problem in the playoff picture. And I know that everybody's going to be circling that Ohio State game again, but Michigan Smoke doesn't expect to lose.
Well, Michigan's coming out with an understanding that all we have to do is go game by game. And all we got to do is get to the end of the season and see what Ohio State's going to do against us, because we've handled those guys. So unlike most schools, the expectation every week is a knee-jerk reaction of, we lost to Texas. Oh, we're bad. The season's over. No. They respond with the proper approach of we're going back to what we do well. We're going to get the ball into our running back's hand. We're going to lean on our offensive line. And by the end of the day, we're going to keep hammering at this rock. And eventually what you saw on that 50-yard explosive run, that rock broke. And they end up winning that game by playing old school. And I know you love this, running the ball, throwing the ball just a handful of times, keeping out of danger, understanding that Orji is not where he needs to be at this moment as a passer. So all we have to do is just pick up 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5. You don't have to run it because we know right now we can run the ball for at least 5 to 6 yards at a clip.
What I love about Michigan is they're locking the gates and they're challenging you to a barroom brawl, and they want to put their hands on you and play football Smoke in a physical manner. And for me, being a guy that loves the run game, that loves offense and defensive line play, it's always a pleasure for me to watch that style of football. Smoke, let's go down to the SEC, your neck of the woods. Auburn, tough loss this past weekend. They've having a little struggles. Let's look at what Hugh Freeze comments were after the game.
Unfortunately, this is what I know, and I know that there's people open, and I know that we're running the football. And we got to find a guy that won't throw it to the other team. And we got to find running backs that hold on to it. That's a huge play there. I mean, we're going in to score. I don't know, what was it, 7-0 then, or so it's 7-7, and our defense gets a stop, and who knows what happens. But the scheme is what most everybody in the country is running some sort of. But you've got to have good play at quarterback for sure to at whatever system you're going to choose.
Bo Wallace, former Hugh Freeze quarterback, says, we're approaching the point that he's thrown so many quarterbacks under the bus that maybe no one wants to play for him. His offense helped me tremendously put numbers up when I blew my shoulder out. But why is it someone else's fault every time there's a loss? But when there's a win, I watch the press conference just to count how many times the word I is used. Appreciate what he did for me. My son wouldn't be playing for him, no. I got a story I'll keep in my back pocket forever until it's time. But that dude has never helped me a day in his life. It was always only about getting the win for him so he could collect his extra 100 racks of win. If y'all knew the medications and shots I was taking to get that man his money, you wouldn't believe they would let you walk on the field like that. And with all that, I still feel the tires from the bus. Bo's drunk. No, he is as sober as he could be watching tape. Just tired of this dude always blaming players every single time. Do your research on his offenses, excluding his time at Liberty. Look at the interceptions every quarterback he's had play for him throws. At some point, when it happens over and over every year, you look in the mirror and not at the players to save face. Smoke. Talk to me.
It's a lot of information to unpack there. And you got to look at it in two ways. I'm going to look at it on the coach's side with the first comment that he made at this press conference. I've always, and I know you have, taken the pressure off of your players and put it on yourself. You can go and just throw an old mantra and just cliche. I got to coach it better. We have to get it right, and it's all on us. We'll get the players up to speed and playing the correct way. But whenever you blame the players to the media and don't speak of yourself and put blame on yourself first, you're always going to have players saying, wow, I thought you were going to take that hit for me. I'm catching the strays right now. Now, when I listen to Bo, I believe Bo is a coach, right? High school coach. And a lot of us went through this with former players becoming coaches, and your assistant, your position coach, now a head coach, and you're trying to get a job. And you reach out to that head coach and you say, Coach, I'm here at whatever high school or whatever college, the next open that you have, give me an interview. And what typically, Reed, when it does not work out, you feel like you've been slighted. And you feel like I did everything for this coach to give me the opportunity to now show him that I'm just not the player. I'm now a proven coach. And when you don't get that, now you start going to Twitter. Now you start telling old stories that should be forgotten. We all did things when we played that we did it for the love of the game, and we did it for the guy that coached us because we knew at that point he cared for us. And caring for somebody is not hiring you. You hire the right person that can do the job and can get it done at a high clip.
Smoke, alumni are never happy. Guys that played for guys, they're never happy. They're always upset. Every time I talk to one of you Alabama guys, you guys have complained every day since the day Nick Saban retired. I got guys that complain about Calipari, about Coach K. The thing is this: you're never going to make your former players happy, but it's often the college coach's fault, and here's why. When a kid is 17 years old, he's 18 years old, and these guys are getting recruited, what is every college coach saying, Smoke? You heard it 100 times when you were getting recruited. This is a family. This is not a 4-year decision. It's a 40-year decision. Well, Bo Wallace is still within his 40 years, right? And so if it's a family, and if it's a 40-year decision and not a 4-year decision, which they all say, I have been in thousands of recruiting meetings, and every single coach I've ever been in a meeting with a recruit has said it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. Then when your career is over and the coach is a little slow to answer the phone, or they not communicating with you the way that you think they should, guys take a major resentment to that, and it creates major issues. If you take that same coach and he's an offensive coordinator in the SEC, he probably doesn't feel such a negative way in the situation. But Smoke, I really believe that coaches have set themselves up for their former players to be upset because of the promises they make that they never come through on.
So, Reed, you're a former coach. One of your players call you until you get back into the coaching business, and you have a position open. You know that guy's not qualified to be the linebacker coach that's open. Would you hire him?
Well, Smoke, all of my former players, they know that they have to earn everything that they want. I always tell them, you get what you earn when you earn it. And if they're doing everything the way they're supposed to do, I'll always help them. I'll always be there for them. And if they're not doing the things that they're supposed to do, Smoke, I'll always help them. I always help them get on track and get going in the right direction. But the bottom line is I will be honest with them. I will tell them the truth. A lot of times, Smoke, in life, when you tell guys the truth, they have trouble handling it. It becomes very offensive for it. They get very upset. And so it puts guys in a certain mindset. But the guys that grew up around me and grew up in my locker room know the truth will be told at all times, and we're going to deal with it from that perspective.
Well, they should be upset at you because I'm upset at you right now because you didn't answer the question. You dodged it like I'm throwing, like we playing dodgeball out in the street, and you're moving your head real fast. You wouldn't have hired him. And that player would have said, you know what? Coach Reed don't love me like he used to. No, I love you as a player, not as a coach. And I think that ex-players that become coaches need to recognize that and realize that every opportunity that is open on the staff of a coach that you played for is not necessarily yours. Because coaches, we recruit and we coach a ton of players. Every single player is not qualified to be a coach. Every single coaching opportunity you're not qualified for. So just like when you're a player, you have to earn it. And when you don't get it, find another avenue to get right. But getting to stabbing and throwing out old dirt and putting up old rumors out there, true or not, yeah, we're better than that. And just move on. We all understand what it is. We did what we had to do when we're players. Coach is not going to hire you. Life goes on. Get good at something else, like you've always said.
Smoke, they'll be upset for a minute, but then Claudia cook them one of her caramel cakes and everybody will be happy again. You know how it goes. Guys, you can watch us every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on our 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. You have just been
Unfiltered.